The state of Mississippi is trying to reshape the narrative on the Nolan Wells death? Really? So it has been reported that Nolan Wells, witnesses have come forward to say that Nolan Wells was drinking heavily during the day of the 4th of July. As to say, that's why he drowned. Because remember, authorities have already come out and said, even before they did the autopsy, that Nolan Wells drowned. And his mother, Christine Wansley, said that she needed a medical explanation as to what led up to those events of him, if they say he drowned, right? Now let me ask y'all something. Was Nolan Wells the only one on Horn Island with his group of friends that was drinking? Let's go back through the evidence. Now, as you can see, the gentleman right next to Nolan Wells has beer dripping all down his chest. The other guy had a beer can in his hand. Now, these children are all under the age of 21. None of them can legally purchase alcohol except for Bart. Wait a minute. Bart, were you the one who bought the alcohol for the underage kids that day on the boat on Horn Island?
Right now, a lot of speculation is flying around. So much left unsaid. So many questions still unanswered. People hearing different things, different words, different names. And right after that distress call, everyone still has one question that's yet to be answered. What happened to Nolan Wells? Let's listen again.
Everyone in the background is saying, is he dead? Nolan, wake the up.
Claiming they're sinking and calling for help. And yet, in the background, are we really hearing all of this other activity?
Nobody has ever, none of the kids on this boat have ever admitted that anybody said that they thought Nolan was dead.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
You are hearing the audio distress call from the boat. That is the boat on which Nolan Wells went to Horn Island.
While all of that keeps spreading online, here's where the actual investigation stands. The state's official autopsy is now complete. The results haven't been made public yet. They're expected to stay sealed until the case reaches a grand jury. Separately, Ben Crump's team has confirmed they've brought in their own audio engineers to formally examine that distress call, instead of leaving it to whatever people believe they're hearing online. And in a case that's now drawn a real arrest, a man in California was charged this week for threatening one of the people connected to this case. The stakes around what actually gets said publicly keep getting higher. In the middle of all of that, one person who was actually on Horn Island that day has come forward with his own account, on the record. This is Warren.
All right, so I want to be clear with this one thing, because I know you mentioned before. Is there any chance or any knowledge that you have that anybody deleted stuff from his phone?
Wells' friend. According to what Nolan's friends told investigators, he made the choice to stay behind with a young woman he'd just met that day. But when one friend was asked directly whether that matched who Nolan actually was, the answer wasn't a clean yes. He said it didn't sound like him at all, that he'd never known Nolan to break off from the group like that. That gap has been sitting underneath this entire case from the very beginning. And what's come out since only sharpens it.
So you guys get ready to leave out of there, you're getting towed out, and then where's Nolan in this situation?
Well, Nolan was, the last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock, and Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie, Katie. And Katie, Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, dude, you crazy. I was like just joking with him. And but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously, no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, be there and asked, this is a very common thing at Horn Island. When you're out there, a lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. It's a very common thing, but Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said,
how many people heard that?
At least 5. Everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys all the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. We had multiple people in our group that rode out with us and rode in on someone else's boat. And that, like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do, a lot of people do that. I could name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back in with somebody else. So, it's not like it's an uncommon thing, but it's not like we just left him there, or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had text somebody that she heard people yelling
correct
for Nolan to get on it. Is that true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, this is the last time I saw him, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided.
So that's Katie's account, relayed through a text message the next day, matching what Warren remembers hearing himself. But here's where the timeline gets complicated. The distress call happened while everyone was still saying the boat was sinking, taking on water, needing help right away. Yet the GPS data pulled from that boat afterward shows it didn't actually leave the island until around 4:30, roughly 30 minutes after that call went out. If the boat was really sinking, why the wait? And if it wasn't, why the call?
Now, Nolan could be with a chick. He could be with somebody else.
Right.
He could have gone back with somebody else. What made you concerned enough that you felt like you couldn't weigh it out anymore? You had to call the Coast Guard.
Well, like I said, my friends and I have been on the water our whole life. Stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And, it's a fun place to be, but it's also a very, very dangerous place to be if you're not handling it right. And Nolan, so I hadn't heard from him, and obviously I'm thinking I'd way rather be safe than sorry. I would rather call the Coast Guard 100 times and lose my mind over it and my buddy be okay than, not, and me not know where he is and him not be okay. And so I called the Coast Guard and I talked to them on the phone for like 20 minutes, gave him a description, what Nolan was wearing, the last place we were at, the last time I saw him, who were we with, what boat we were on, the conditions of the water, just a summary. And I called Miss Christine back after and I talked to her and I said, I got in contact with the Coast Guard. I'm not sure who she called or, what she did, but I think she said she was going to make a couple phone calls to either DMR or Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And I was thinking worst case scenario. I would way rather be safe than sorry about this,
The Officer Tatum on YouTube, he has interviewed Nolan's friends. Now, we're about to bring on 2 experts, each one taking a different viewpoint on that call. But, Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us tonight. What do you make of that audio, officer?
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for having me on. If you put the audio within context, it is an impossibility unless these people are prophesying that somehow they're saying Nolan's name or projecting that Nolan is somehow injured, hurt, or killed, because we have witnesses that have come out. When I interviewed Warren, a lot of those kids that I talked to already alluded to this way before the audio came out, that they were gone. And people had already saw Nolan after they had left. The young lady, Katie, that he was hanging out with, I saw a text message from her alluding to the fact that she never saw him get on that boat at all. We have video of the boat that we shared on our social media page, and it shows all the occupants on the boat, and Nolan was not there. And so if a person thinks that they've heard something on the audio, they have to compare it with context. Maybe they said, "Is it dead?" talking about items that could potentially have died or damaged on the boat, given the fact that they were sinking. So I think people need to put this in context and reevaluate what they're listening to on the video, because if you are going to make a staunch stance in the wrong direction, in my opinion, by saying they're obviously talking about Nolan, it is incredibly impossible. One more thing real quick, that when you look at where they were at when they made the phone call and their GPS coordinates, it literally put them on the island. And we know, and not on the physical island, but really close proximity to the island. And we know, because we have another video of Nolan being out there and also all the other boats surrounding him, that this would have had to happen very near to hundreds of people in hundreds of different boats. So somebody would have seen something if there was a dramatic commotion like this occurring on that boat.
I hear what you're saying, Officer Brandon Tatum.
So far, everything we've covered has come from people, memories, texts, phone calls, an audio recording nobody can fully agree on. All of it filtered through someone's account of what they saw or heard that day. Then there's the body itself, and what an actual medical exam could tell us. The family brought in their own pathologist, separate from the state, specifically because they wanted answers nobody in Mississippi could be accused of shading one way or another. That exam came back with a conclusion that satisfied almost nobody. Not drowning, not homicide, undetermined. According to the family's attorney, part of the reason for that came down to something unexpected found on the back of Nolan's head, deep enough that it sat beneath the skin, something nobody's been able to fully explain. But there's another problem too, one that has nothing to do with what was found, and everything to do with what wasn't there to examine in the first place. By the time this second autopsy happened, certain organs, the ones a pathologist actually needs to confirm or rule out drowning specifically, simply weren't included with the body. So what does that actually mean for how confident anyone can be in a finding like this? Here's a board-certified forensic pathologist explaining exactly why that matters.
Melanek. I'm a board-certified forensic pathologist, and I just watched the Nolan Wells press conference, and I wanted to share some context for everyone. Being able to definitively state the cause of death after a body has not been found for several days and has been subsequently autopsied twice with signs of decomposition is incredibly, incredibly unlikely. Drowning is what's called a diagnosis of exclusion, which means that when you've got a fresh body, you want to be able to look at the body and see if there's any other causes of death for that body that is found in water that exclude the death being exclusively a drowning. So for example, if someone is shot and then thrown in the water, you'll have that gunshot and they'll be bleeding and the gunshot will be the cause of death, and the thrown in the water is not the cause of death. It's not even on the death certificate. If a person is strangled and they die from strangulation and then their dead body is thrown in the water, their body will take on water, but the cause of death is going to be strangulation, not drowning. Also for any kind of traumatic injuries. Now we got to talk about natural death for a second. If someone has a heart attack while they are swimming And because they're having the heart attack as they're exercising in the water and they take on water and they drown, the cause of death is actually drowning. And the heart attack is listed on the death certificate under other significant conditions contributing to death. So even though the heart attack might have killed them on dry land, it might not have. Most certainly they wouldn't on dry land. So we defer to the hostile environment, which is the water, to call it a drowning. Now, identifying natural disease and identifying trauma is relatively easy in a fresh body. It can be very difficult in a decomposed body. His body was found here, and this second autopsy done by Dr. Roger Mitchell wasn't until 4 days later. So we're dealing with quite a bit of decomposition, even if the body was refrigerated during that time.
Now, their lawyers are using subpoenas to try to get some answers. They're asking multiple tech companies to preserve relevant social media and phone records. It's still unclear how Wells's body ended up on the shoreline of a coastal island 2 days after a boating trip with friends. His cause of death is undetermined, according to an independent autopsy. The state autopsy reportedly is complete, but the results are not yet public.
We are begging, if anyone knows anything, his friends, strangers, please call the hotline, because we will not be able to rest until we get answers.
So far, so good. That hotline number is still active. And it's not the only thing moving right now. This week, someone was actually arrested over this case. Not for anything connected to Nolan's death directly, but for threatening one of the people tied to it. A man in California was charged after making threats against Judge Ashley Cole, whose son was one of the friends on that boat. It's a reminder that whatever anyone believes happened out on that island, threatening real people over it is its own separate crime, and now it's being treated as one. Crump's team says they're not stopping at the audio or the autopsy either. They've confirmed they're now working with oceanic engineering experts, trying to understand something that's bothered people from the start. Why Nolan's body was ultimately found in nearly the same spot he was last seen alive, instead of somewhere the currents should have carried him. And legally, this case is starting to spread beyond just the investigation itself. Attorneys for people connected to Nolan's friend group have begun sending their own legal notices, cease and desists, demands for evidence preservation, warnings aimed at online creators and public figures who've shared theories about specific individuals without real proof behind them. Whatever happens with the actual investigation, it's becoming clear this case isn't just playing out in a courtroom anymore. It's playing out across lawsuits, subpoenas, and now criminal charges of its own, all running in parallel with the one question nobody's actually answered yet. What happened to Nolan Wells?